Welcome! Today we're going to be creating some robot concept art. I'll be taking you through my process with some time lapses while also reading off some brief lore and adding a few tips for creating your own concept art. First, I began sketching out some thumbnails. Concept artists use thumbnail sketches to roughly create an outline of what their mind cannot. I make about 2 or 3 sketches with a basic pen brush. Making a few sketches helps me loosen the tension in my hand and mind, so by the 3rd thumbnail I'm almost consistently coming up with ideas and still able to focus on them. Once I draw a thumbnail I really like, or I fly up another idea I feel ready to work with, I'll begin setting down a proper drawing. The first design was a little vaguer on detail. I hadn't grabbed any reference material and was just generally gung-ho to begin working on it. I knew this wasn't going to be a centerpiece, so I mostly had fun with this robot and tried out some stuff that might look a little odd in the end. Despite its simplicity, I really like this guy. Great swords have a special place in my art, and I'm glad that I didn't just give up on him. Okay, now I was ready to apply myself to the big sketch. This time I was sure to actually grab a board of references and began sketching the next set of thumbnails. I took inspiration from a variety of heavy, very bulky things. The goal in mind for this project being something of a salvaged scrapyard giant, hunched over by its own weight. The war rigs of Warhammer Orcs come to mind. I also took inspiration from apocalyptic settings such as Fallout and Mad Max. After deciding on the direction of the project, I began working on the major drawing, beginning with a rough outline to block in the proportions and major pose. The big undertaking here was deciding how I want to present the sketch and if the pose was right. I went back and forth with a few different sketches on another canvas till I decided this first one I designed really captured my interest. This leads into my first tip for you artists watching. Experiment with ideas, even on what you would consider an important drawing like I would this one. No one gets better by going with what's easy. You only dig yourself into a rut. Try different poses or styles and don't let the artwork become boring to yourself just because you're too careful you want something good enough. If you're using a digital drawing program, this becomes a million times easier because we have the reversed option, as well as layers. Make use of them. Don't be afraid to just erase or remove something. Sometimes following a gut feeling just makes all the difference in a drawing. This principal rule has been guiding me on my art journey and it will help me grow as time progresses. After finishing the preliminary sketch, I went through with a slight brush and put down the line work. I had a ton of panel lines and outlines to help me in later in the rendering process. I tended to skip this way too much on my older drawings, and by the time I would go and add them during rendering, I had drawn myself into a corner. Since all my shading was done, it would be tedious to add them individually and affect the rest of the drawing, so I didn't, and my art looked worse for it. I took the time to do it this time beforehand, and I would say the results speak for themselves. Of course, this being a channel that covers lore, these bots were no exception. While drawing, I used the boring moments to think about their backgrounds and how they fit into their respective roles. These mecha titans are non-autonomous beings, shells for where the humanoids may take up the mantle of their huge body, commonly referred to as a revived. The world they're from is one of heavy conflict, and subsequently loss and destruction. The nations who built the original shells have been extinct for centuries, although the remains of them were the titans who fought for them. Later, the world was eventually repopulated by new peoples, and so too did the ancient threat return. Seeking a way to combat the tide of annihilation, they looked for the only thing left on the world that had held back the destruction for so long. The young races reverse-engineered or simply cannibalized the mechs for their own use, and as such, these 2 mechs are among the ranks of the revived, serving their new masters till they too are eliminated. The painting stage is where a piece either gets finished or abandoned for me. I'll sit on a drawing, cycling between techniques, flipping through layers, rather than just setting down actual brush strokes, over and over. After a lot of deliberation, I just went with a basic shading approach, then brushed on color around the focal points and worked out from there. The next step was just some not so careful strokes around the body panels and mechanical parts with a mix of rusty oranges and grayish green. So another tip I find really helpful in painting is finding your focal points in a drawing and where the viewer's eyes tend to be drawn to. This begins all the way back in the sketch phase and is pretty important if you want art with a specific portrayal. The focal point draws the viewer's eyes' attentions first, so you can put a lot of detail in those spots. Other areas the viewer tends to glaze over won't need as much fine detail. If you're looking to get better at your own art, I'll have placed a few of my favorite art channels here on YouTube on the screen for you to reference. They've helped me grow in the past 2 years a whole ton, so I definitely recommend checking them out. and if you wish to support my own channel, I would really appreciate maybe a like or a sub. The rendering stage is probably my favorite, just because of how everything comes together. I get to add the little details, all the panels, screws, extra lighting and shading, dabbing on more paint, going back in to compare differences. Finally, with all the tiny details done, the moment of truth arrives and we look at the end results. Big shout out to my subs who stick with me. I know this took a while to put out, and I got more content on the way. If you want to check out some of my other vids, click the link. Thanks for watching.